cargo. Roger that, ground control. Tower, we are go for launch, over.
Good morning and thanks for joining us for another fantastic launch webinar. Today, it is my pleasure to have as my guest, Mr. Adam Piggott, the CEO of OpenBrix. Adam, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you, David. It's a grey, rainy day down here in Surrey, but other than that, everything's sunny.
Now, today you're going to shine a little bit of sun on tenants for once, an often overlooked part of our industry, seen as a means to an end for a lot of agents and landlords in terms of just getting them into a property and keeping that rental income coming, but people are starting to look at that tenant process from the very first moment they walk through the door of an estate agent, all the way through to sort of being a tenant in that property. And onboarding solutions are few and far between. But you've got something rather exciting planned. Tell us all about it.
We have, thanks, David. Yeah, you're right. Tenants have. We all know this. Tenants have traditionally got a bit of a rough deal. You know, I remember when I had my agency, you know, it was a mild annoyance when a tenant would phone us up and saying, my new landlord, you know, when they were leaving one of my clients' properties, my new landlord has asked for a rental statement of all the rent. It's like, oh, really? So you'd write them a 2-3 line. Yes, you've been an excellent tenant. You've got to be careful what you say. And that's all you get. Whereas if you have a mortgage, you get a mortgage statement every year. It gives you all your payments. And so that's kind of where it started with us. So we wanted to provide tenants with an identity, a genuine digital approved identity, which could obviously help with the anti-money laundering and know your client and the whole right to rent thing. So we wanted to give them that. But we also wanted to give them a bit of respect and you know, they pay this rent every month. They get nothing back for it other than the property. They don't get acknowledged. And, you know, I think many tenants, and in fact, many people in the UK, forget being a tenant, aren't aware that if you pay your mobile phone every month by direct debit, you know, you get a credit score. But if you pay your rent for 2 years and a substantial amount of money, you get nothing. It doesn't get recorded. So I was a founder of Credit Ladder, for example, which is a rent reporting platform. Did a great, fantastic job, but all Credit Ladder could do effectively was acknowledge a payment. It would influence your credit history. It wouldn't go onto your credit score. So we've now linked up directly with Equifax, and we're able to provide them with the data upon consent of what this payment is. So, you know, the Equifax will now know that this is paid on the 6th of August. This is his first rent payment. He's paying £1,500 a month. It's due on the 6th, it's paid on the 6th, and there's another 11 more payments to go.
And if you think about it, it's likely to be one of your single biggest outlays in terms of monthly expenditure. So it's a pretty hefty payment to get recorded against your file. It shows you're able to.
You know, David, the weirdest thing is that, and everyone will know this analogy, is that, you know, we've got lenders now who are sitting on TLYFE, as well as other suppliers. But what the lenders can now see is that, you know, Mr. or Miss, you know, Smith is now paying £1,500 a month. And whereas normally, if they're paying £1,500 a month and then they go and get a mortgage and the repayment might be, the monthly payment might be £1,100, the lender will say, you can't afford that. And we've now been able to say, well, actually, they've demonstrated they can afford it. So we'll change the way lenders look at tenants. There's no question about that. And we're working closely with what was the Ministry of Housing, it's now the Levelling Up platform, on a number of things that TLYFE does. But effectively, it gives people, it gives the tenants a verified digital ID. It gives them a rental ledger that they own, they can keep. It's on blockchain, it's secure, it's immutable. validated history of rental payments, and they can, they can also then from there liaise and link directly with agents and other products. And one of them is what I'm going to talk to you today about, is the tool for agents to access this. So when TLYFE gets launched, it's going to go out to about 5 to 6 million active tenants in the UK, with a new product that I am under NDA on. But it's a new product to the UK. It's something that's going to be very compelling. And the fact is, TLYFE is going to be used across the whole private renter sector, whether you're with an agent or whether you're with a private landlord, whether you're with a student housing business.
Applications are endless, basically.
Yeah. And it means the OpenFlo, which is the agent's tool, is the tool that they can access those tenants and then interact with. So OpenFlo is a tenant onboarding journey. We haven't reinvented the wheel, but the tech we use and the partnership integrations we've brought in make this super slick, super quick, and completely compliant. I mean, there's one of our partners is FCC Paragon. They support the reference and the warranties, and they've just brought out a brand new digital smart reference, which is a full reference. It's actually 32 pages of data that an agent can purchase for £5 per tenant. And what that's great. There are cheap references out there, but not full. And this one uniquely, and this is you're the first to hear this. This one is linked to a warranty. So for £5, you can get a reference, and if you want to, you can take out a warranty. And the reason that's able to be done is because the data on the smart reference is so full, and not just, oh yeah, it's an affordability check and no CCJ. They can get a warranty.
That's fascinating. So we'll talk about the obvious benefits to agents in having an end-to-end process that is smooth, that takes all the tedious admin out of the process, etc. But let's talk about the tenants for just a little bit longer. I notice in some of the briefings that you've sent me, if I can read you one of your bullet points, TLYFE is a digital ID where the data is not controlled by big tech, but by the tenant. Data is shared by the tenant or applicant to their chosen party on the platform directly and securely. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Until today, tenants have been unwittingly part of a larger data grab. What are the potential pitfalls of that, and how is that data often used?
Well, currently, how is it used currently in the market? Oh, well, it's amazing. I get myself a new email, for example, and within a few months, I'm being spammed. I'm getting all sorts of rubbish, and little things like I might go on Google search and look for a holiday. The next thing I'm doing, I haven't signed up to anything. Next thing I'm knowing is I'm getting holiday emails. It's like, so basically how this works is that certain elements of what we do is on blockchain. Boring. What it just means, we've decentralized this platform so that a tenant can share some data directly with another party, be it a new agent, for example. They can go there and say, look, here's my ID. I've been pre-qualified, pre-verified. I've just done a light affordability check, which the platform pays for. I haven't got any CCJs. My affordability says I can do this. And I've got 23 months worth of current rental history I can share with you. And that can be shared directly with the agent at a press of a button. And the agent can have that information, download the information to their secure servers, which is much better and compliant actually to GDPR laws, rather than usual, oh, let me take a picture and I'll email it to you.
So in terms of the sort of trail that this data is leaving, it's minimal, it is secure, and it means that the agent can process it and handle it a lot quicker. There'll be nobody skimming the fat off the top of the process in terms of taking people's data or IDs, or any of that sort of stuff. and the tenant is not a commodity that you're selling on the open market.
It's not. So we want to give tenants the ability to have a reputation, a validated reputation. And when we started this, I mean, you may recall we started Life as a portal, which is still there, but it was never going to be, we're just a portal, and we have to keep quiet. And I was on this Challenger portal webinars with you guys, 18 months ago doing this, and it was
hard to get much detail out of you, but it sounded exciting.
So the portal sits underneath it. The portal will grow in years. I still believe that, look, if you've got the type of take up we're hoping to get, and we're having some very interesting meetings and we're getting some traction and some contracts signed, it's potential. If the agency market take this up, then it's potential they can have a free portal that is, second or third biggest. It'll be a challenge to off Rightmove, but everything moves.
As we're speaking, I'm looking at some of your figures here in the background, and you have a substantial number of agencies already signed up and testing the system. And another statistic which I love, time taken to prepare the tenancy contract, half a second.
Well, actually, Shahad Chowdhury, who is our head of innovation, he actually corrected me on that. It was 0.28 seconds. It's a bit of a gimmick, but it was just an interesting stat. It makes people look. I mean, the whole admin process from start to finish all revolves around the offer page on our system. And once that's filled in, and assuming that's filled in correctly, because you can't automate that. I don't know what the offer is going to be. It might not be the full asking rent. But once we know what the offer is, we know the move-in date, we know what the initial payment will be, we know whether there is a cat or a dog in the tenancy, whether there's a garden and all that. Once that bit is done, all the documentation is done. It's all fed in, links to your tenancy deposit protection scheme. It links, the ability then ties in all the referencing procedure, and then it's up to the agent to do the process in the order they want to do it, which means there are some tenant onboarding process. We have to follow a route. When you go through duty free, you might want to get to the bar, but you've got to walk past FNAF toys and the nail varnish and the makeup and the perfume. And we don't make you do that. If you want to go straight to the bar, you can go. You can do this process in any order you want. There's about 8 chunks.
And that's important because, let's face it, every agency has its own sort of order of doing things. The lettings process end to end probably contains the same ingredients, but just in a different order. And you're able to adapt to that, so that's great.
We can, but we had one of our early beta testing agents. This was about 18 months ago, who remain nameless. In fact, a very nice company, been very helpful towards us. When we were having a workshop with them and a few other agents. We asked them what their view was of tenants, and they said it wasn't meant as a nasty comment. It was kind of meant as a factual thing, that they viewed tenants as the bottom of the food chain. Which, if you think about it, there's an argument to say, well, they are the bottom of the process, but they're the people who fund the whole private rent sector. Without the rent coming in, there is no industry. So tenants need to be given a bit of respect. And equally, if you're a bad tenant, then you're not going to get good reputation. If you're a poorly paying tenant, then this TLYFE is going to be a nightmare for you. I don't have a problem with that. But if you're a good tenant, you should be acknowledged as one.
So the obvious benefits from the agent is that it does cut out a lot of the legwork in the admin, doesn't it? In terms of the back and the forwards and the collecting of different bits of information. It gets all the statutory, in terms of compliance, it ticks all of those boxes, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally compliant.
And for good tenants, this should be a breeze, and it's something that they want to willingly interact with.
There's an interesting statistic. You talk about good tenants. Well, let's just talk about defaulting tenants. And when one puts a bracket of defaulting tenants, there are many reasons why tenants don't pay rent. Sometimes for a good reason, a good moral reason. We all know why. But interestingly, it's only 0.83% of tenants are either late or default with their rent, which doesn't mean the rent isn't paid.
Yeah.
But that's a tiny number. And you look at the sort of 99% plus who do everything they should do. Okay, there might be a mark on a carpet, but that gets sorted 9 times out of 10.
But in terms of payment history, as we opened this conversation by talking about that, that is, I think it's superb. If I pay my car finance every month on time, it builds my credit history. If I were to pay my mortgage, which, let's face it, my mortgage is probably as much as a lot of people's rent. There's no reason why
Probably more.
Yeah, sometimes. So there's no reason why I deserve to have a better credit rating at the end of the day than a tenant who is renting for whatever reason, but they're able to afford that rent. They're making those payments on time. They should at least take that benefit. It doesn't hurt the landlord, and it most certainly doesn't hurt the agent. I can only see good things coming from this.
Yeah, and I think that's what the government have seen. And when we've been sort of demoing this now to various industry entities and agents, they all like it. And we've gone through the process now of last year we went through the process of testing it. And we had a bank of 5 agents who we called our Fantastic 5, who we really focused on when we first released it. And they've been absolutely superb because they've given us such great feedback. I mean, some feedback is, I don't like the color of the button, or can that button go there? And, sometimes you think, actually, do you know what, if that makes the flow easier, let's just do it. But there was something like I think it was 296 different cards we created to make improvements, to make little changes, which we've done. And it does flow nicely. And what's good is it's all, OpenFlo interacts directly in real time with the consumer app TLYFE, but also there's a backup of every time an action is created or an action is actioned, an email goes to the other party to say, the rental offer's just been confirmed, or the holding deposit's just paid, or whatever. So it's sort of belts and braces, but it's very quick. All the paperwork. I mean, when I've done it, and I think it was about my 10th attempt, I suppose. I got it down to 4 minutes to onboard a tenant.
Pretty good going. And so who is this for, Adam? Who are you looking to reach? Is it the whole of the market initially, or is there a certain type of agent that this would be suitable for, more suitable for?
Well, look, there are many people who are, I was saying, as I go on, I was an agent for 28 years, and there's always new prop tech coming out, and it gets boring. There's a lot of guff, and sometimes you've got something that works and your staff are able to use it. You want to carry on, and I totally get that. But everything evolves, and this is just it's the new generation. It's the next generation of tenant onboarding. We're the first to do this. We won't be the last, but we're the first. And how it does the interaction is based on the benefits it gives the consumer. So this is very much focused on consumer. So the tool, OpenFlo, is for any agent out there who kind of wants to say, look, I wouldn't mind allowing my tenants to have all these benefits. It may be, if it takes off the way we hope it does, agents maybe feel they're compelled to use it, or they have to use it. I don't want them to feel that they have to use it, but the reality is what we've built, I believe, is better than any other solution out there right now. And it's up to us now to make certain we keep ourselves at the top and keep developing and keep making it better. But it's open to, we're in discussions, and we've got a large corporate who's just joined us. We've got, my data at the end of November was 165 agents had signed up to use the OpenFlo. And I think in the first 2-week period of testing, where I've got the figure here, 408 tenants were onboarded during the first 2 weeks.
I was going to ask you about that. So is there a certain education process that tenants are going to have to go through in order to sort of, for the agent to explain to them what TLYFE is and how it's going to help them? Is there that discussion that needs to happen up front, and when should that conversation happen?
They don't have to go into it too deeply. I mean, they don't have to tell them. The reality is that a lot of negs will come back from reviewing. Now, if they're really efficient, they'll know They'll know all they'll need to know at that stage from a tenant. They'll need to know their full names, whether it's a couple, whether it's a family, whether it's a single individual, whether they've got a pet, you know, how long they want it for, and what their email address is and phone number. But even if it's an egg comes back and just says it's Adam and this, I didn't get his surname and this is his email, they're educated online. So when the agent goes onto the dashboard and fills in all they know about the tenant, which is the first name and email address, that email, that the system then sends an email out to the tenant to say, your tenant, your agent, Smith & Co. estate agents, are interested, you know, you've shown interest in 7 Acacia Grove through us. We'd like to onboard you and put your offer over in writing. Please, can you now register at this by clicking this button? And then they're taken through the registration process, which is pretty simple. I mean, you don't have to do the full onboarding. You don't do the facial recognition ID at that stage. It's literally just fill in and give your email address. And that means that the agent then will, without realizing it, is sending an email to the tenant telling them what the next process is. And then it goes back and forth. So the agent's then aware that the tenant has been onboarded. You can go in and click, see all the data there that's been consented, and it goes back and forth, but it can be done in any order.
Am I allowed to ask you at this stage what the cost for this will be in terms of people using it?
Well, yes, absolutely. It will vary on usage. And what we want to do is, rather than just have the traditional monthly subscription, as you know, we've always wanted to keep things as low cost as possible. Hence why the portal we originally started, it was going to be free.
Yep.
So this will be based on a per tenancy basis. So in other words, if you're only onboarding 5 or 6 lets a month, you might be only paying £50 to £60 a month. If you're doing 10 lets a month, you might be paying £100, £120 a month. And then as you use the flow, if you want to, for example, use the smart reference via FCC, you know, they'll invoice you directly. So you get on your dashboard, you're aware the whole time what your running costs are. So, you know, it's very transparent if you've onboarded a number of agents. So the cost will vary, but it will be somewhere around sort of £10 to £12 per tenancy. But obviously, if you are going to include a reference in that, then that's going to be another £5. And then, of course, there's the opportunity to incur very transparent referral fees. The home setup is automatic. The agent has to do nothing. It's automated and triggered when the tenant signs the tenancy contract. And then there's a consent by the tenant that they have to say, look, do you want us to sort your gas, electricity, your council tax, your water, and et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, do you want broadband? Do you want these energy suppliers? Yeah. And the tenant does it all, and the agent gets the referral fee.
And that takes care of that often awkward part of the process where you have to say... It's
literally done. It's done. The agent does nothing, but they get the full referral fee. We don't take it.
I love it. I love it. And I look forward to seeing what is coming next. I know you've got a number of different developments.
We've got one big one coming at the end of March.
Stay tuned. You heard it here first, folks. But it's lovely to see that you are adding value to a part of the process that is very often overlooked. And certainly in terms of tenants, I think that, you know, to regard everybody as a tenant and therefore valueless other than just paying their rent is a mistake. Those tenants are going to be buyers of tomorrow for sure.
Absolutely, and that's why the lenders, I mean, we've got lenders now sniffing around us. 2 have signed up because they want to be able to sort of say, well, look, can we market? Can we offer you know, some new offers to your tenants? If you know, the deal is the tenant has to consent to that information. If they don't want to consent, then they won't get the offer. They're in control of it.
It's superb. Looking forward to seeing what's coming next. And thank you very much for sharing this with us today.
Not at all, David. My pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show.
Pleasure.